G'day. If you're contemplating a 35cc or a 60cc model, this video is about basic setups for that. And in the first instance, I'm looking at these new Futaba servos, and having had a look at the gear train, I would have no hesitation whatsoever putting those into my 60cc powered 20 kg Zeroli Spitfire. These are two of my 60cc powered models, or two of them. That one's a Seagull Nemesis, which has got a 307.2s, which those 400s replaced. Keeps burning out the dongle on the internal canister there, so I'm just working on a fix for that. And this is my Seagull cassette that's got an OSGT60 single cylinder in it, and that's what these servos are going into. Rather than replacing the racer ones, they're going into this, which is now a glider tug. That's a Futaba Pilot Link, which was a much misunderstood product back in the 80s. There's a couple of other projects on the go a bit later. Being a Futaba dealer, my job is to sell servos, of course, but also I'm the secretary and contest director for the Large Scale Racing Club. A bit more on that later. In the meantime, I decided to strip all the covering off the cassette and give it a bit of a birthday. More like a 1000 hourly really, it's done heaps of flying. So after making the appropriate decision, I got to work. So I coated this with laminating resin, which I thought was a bit like K&B Super Epoxy, but this stuff's really hard, so it was a lot more elbow grease required than I thought initially. But as you can see, I budgeted for a 3-can job before I went home. Just while I'm doing the menial work, those new 400s, they've got a good strong gear train in them. It's got an oil-like bearing, and also it's a self-tapper into the nylon output shaft. Whereas if you upgrade to metal gear, output gear servos, with a metal thread screw, you've got to remember to Loctite that in, because they have been known to unwind. Metal output shaft and alloy servo arms, there's less chance of the spline stripping, but that's more like for IMAC applications, not what we're doing here in sport scale flying. Never seen it happen. If you're seeking advice, just be a little bit careful with some of the top competitive type things like IMAC or F3A. They have different sort of requirements. And from my experience, if anyone's suggesting you have more than 30% expo, I think that's pretty poor advice, unless you want to hover an aeroplane or something. 25% is a good starting point. And just on propeller selection, for a 60cc, my go-to starting prop is a 21x12, or maybe a 2210. And 35cc, we run 1712, 1810s in the racing aircraft, and those 402s 35cc, really we're just sport flying those. They do about 185 k's an hour with the 12 inches of pitch. So if someone's trying to flog you an 8-inch pitch on a big model like that, really I found that to be a waste of time. So the cassette is now my test bed for 60cc, so I'll run those U400s in it. It's also got telemetry, that Futaba Pilot Link, which I'm going to use for just maintaining a level climb at altitude with the glider on the back. And also it's got another R7006 receiver, 7008's the main, which will be running a Mode A setup, with differential wheel brakes and a few other bits and pieces, so I can explain how to use that. That's in preference to purchasing the 14-channel fast S receiver. When in doubt buying servos, buy the most expensive ones you can afford. You won't regret it, particularly if you end up getting into larger and larger aircraft. But what manufacturers are recommending for a 30cc aeroplane, I think that's just over the top. We've been racing these aircraft for 25 plus years using a 6.5 kilogram per centimetre torque rating, and it's proved more than adequate. This video is not promoting racing per se, but racing soon sorts out gear. As far as engines are concerned, if you're running a 60cc Zenoa, a DA60, a DLE60, OSGT60, we found in Formula 1 there's about a 10k an hour difference, which can easily be sorted out with the correct propeller selection. Once the cassette is finished, the next video will be really just on setting the S-Bus 2 servos up and also the twin receiver setup. So as we say in racing, it's bank, then yank. Cheers.